Okay, welcome to the deep dive, everybody. Today we're going to be looking into something that I think we all can relate to, and that's the gap between our ambition, the things we want to do in life, the goals we want to achieve, and the consistent action that is actually needed to make those things happen.
Yeah, it's like we have this picture of success, right? But then the process of actually going and doing all the work it takes to get there, that's where things can start to unravel.
Yeah, it really is. It's kind of like, yeah, wanting those six-pack abs, but still wanting to eat cake every day. I mean, we all get it. We want the trophy, but maybe not the training, right?
Okay.
So to really delve into this, we've been looking at this YouTube video, and it's from LEP, Learn English Podcast, and it's titled, this is a pretty direct title, If You're Ambitious but Lazy, Please Watch This Video.
Yeah, I think the lazy part is a little tongue-in-cheek, but it gets to the point. It's about why we struggle to take those ideas that we have that we're excited about and actually turn them into something tangible and consistent.
Right, so in this deep dive, we're going to try and unpack just that.
Mm.
Why is it that sometimes our brain just sort of short circuits when it's time to actually take action?
Hmm.
We're going to be extracting actionable steps that you can actually integrate into your own life to bridge that gap between ambition and action.
Exactly, and not just theory, but practical science-backed techniques.
So, all right, let's start with the beginning. When we have these big goals, right, these really significant goals, why is it that our brain sometimes feels like it's throwing up a roadblock?
Yeah.
Like right when we even think about starting, you know?
Well, I think a lot of it is just that, like, the sheer scale of our ambition can be overwhelming, right? If you think about a huge project, a complete transformation of your fitness, learning a whole new skill set, it's just a lot.
Yeah, it's like you're expecting like a nice walk in the park and suddenly you're standing at the base of Mount Everest.
Right. And there was a study done in 2021 by Shunk and Da Benedetto, and basically they found that when we see something that's either too difficult or too uncertain, our brains tend to just avoid it. I mean, in a way, it's a protective mechanism, right? Like it's trying to save us from expending energy on something that may not work out.
So it's not that we don't necessarily want it. It's more that our brain is interpreting this big goal as this like immense, almost like threatening thing.
Exactly. And mixed in with that, right, is a lot of fear too, right? Fear of failing or not being good enough, or even just like what will people think if I try and I don't immediately succeed.
Yeah, the judgment. I think that's universal.
So when our brain sees like all of this, the huge task, the potential for failure, the potential for judgment, well, it's going to try and find another way out. And that's usually when those distractions pop up. Suddenly, cleaning the house seems incredibly urgent.
All right, it's like your brain says, oh, danger. Too much effort over there. Let's organize the sock drawer instead. Much safer. So we're starting to see the why here. Big goals, they feel scary and they trigger our fear, and our brains are really good at offering us these tempting distractions to avoid the real work. So how do we combat this? What's the strategy?
Well, one of the most powerful things you can do is to start taking tiny steps. The video uses this great analogy. Instead of looking at the whole mountain, just focus on taking that first step. So if you want to write a novel, don't think about the whole book, just write one paragraph today. If you want to get in shape, don't think about running a marathon, just do 5 squats.
Yeah, it almost feels kind of counterintuitive, right? It's like, how can such a tiny thing really lead to a big result?
This is what's fascinating. A neuroscientist called Wolfram Schultz has done a lot of research on this, and he's shown that even when we complete small tasks, our brain releases dopamine. And dopamine is that neurochemical that's associated with pleasure and reward. So even tiny achievements give us this little hit of, happiness.
So it's not the size of the achievement, it's just the act of achieving something.
Right. And each one of those tiny victories is a little dopamine boost. And that makes us want to keep going. It builds momentum. Think of it like training for a marathon. You don't start by running 26 miles on day 1. You start small and you gradually build up your endurance.
Right, okay, I'm starting to see it. It's like we're kind of subtly retraining our brains to associate action with something positive, so then the big scary goal doesn't seem quite so daunting anymore.
Exactly. And all those small actions, they add up over time. And that initial momentum is what gets you over that initial inertia that we all feel when we think about something that seems just too big.
The video also talks about the difference between just wanting to do something and actually having the capacity to do it consistently. And I think that leads us to the whole topic of discipline.
Yeah, motivation gets talked about a lot, but the video makes a good point that relying solely on motivation is like relying on a friend who's really enthusiastic, but rarely actually shows up. It's just not reliable.
Totally. One day you're like, yes, I'm going to get so much done today. And the next day, Just thinking about your to-do list makes you want to hide under the covers.
Exactly. And that's where discipline comes in. Discipline is what carries you, even when motivation has gone out the window. Think about brushing your teeth, for instance. You don't wake up every day feeling this burning passion to brush your teeth, but you do it anyway because it's a habit. It's discipline.
Right, it's just automatic. It doesn't require like this big mental debate with yourself.
So how do we build that discipline? Well, the video suggests this idea of no thinking, just do. Set yourself a prompt, like an alarm or a specific time, and when that prompt goes off, do a tiny action. It could be anything, just something small and easy to do, like, do a few stretches. The key is to act immediately without thinking about it.
So you're basically just bypassing that voice in your head that's always trying to talk you out of doing anything.
Yeah, exactly. The less you think about it, the easier it is to just start. And starting, that's how you build that discipline over time.
Okay, so we're building momentum with tiny steps. We're building discipline with the just do it approach. But what about that classic productivity killer, procrastination? I mean, how do we deal with that?
Even when you have the discipline, just getting started on something can be the hardest part.
Right, it's like the second you sit down to work, suddenly everything else seems way more important.
And this is where the 2-minute rule comes in. It's so simple, but it's incredibly effective. If a task feels overwhelming, tell yourself you're only going to do it for 2 minutes. Hitting the snooze button. Just stay awake for 2 minutes. Have a pile of laundry to fold. Just fold one shirt. Want to work out? Do one push-up. Writing an essay. Just write one sentence.
Really? It's like, it just seems so small. Does that really make a difference?
There's this concept called behavior momentum, and it's basically the idea that once you start doing something, it's much easier to keep going. It's like pushing a heavy object. It takes a lot of effort to get it moving, but once it's rolling, it's easier to keep it going. So the 2-minute rule is like that initial push. It tricks your brain into getting started, and often, once those 2 minutes are up, you'll just want to keep going.
Right. Like you've already broken that initial barrier, so why not keep going?
Exactly.
So we've got tiny steps, just do it, the 2-minute rule. Are there any other, I don't know, external factors that affect our ability to get things done?
Oh, yeah. Your environment and the people you spend time with can have a huge impact. There's that saying, birds of a feather flock together. And it's true. If the people around you are motivated and are pursuing their goals, you're more likely to do the same.
It's like good habits are contagious, right?
Exactly. And so are bad habits, unfortunately. So if you're surrounded by people who are always making excuses and not taking action, that can become your norm too. It really does matter who you spend your time with.
So the company you keep can actually make or break your ability to reach your goals. That's a pretty powerful realization.
Yeah. And the video has some good advice on this. Find people who are action-oriented. Join groups or online communities that are focused on your goals. Find a buddy to check in with and keep each other accountable. And if you're not currently surrounded by those kinds of people, try finding inspiring content, podcasts, books, social media accounts, anything that motivates you and keeps you focused on action.
Right, so you're basically intentionally surrounding yourself with this culture of doing, even if it's virtual. Now, there's another obstacle that I think a lot of ambitious people struggle with, and that's perfectionism.
Ah, yes, perfectionism, it can be procrastination in disguise. The video calls it procrastination in a fancy outfit, which I think is a perfect way to put it.
Yeah, I love that. It's like you're busy planning and strategizing, but you're never actually doing anything because you're waiting for the perfect conditions, which of course never come.
Exactly. You're waiting for the perfect plan, the perfect time, the perfect setup, and while you're waiting, you're not making any progress. Think about a baby learning to walk. They fall down all the time, but they don't give up. They just keep trying until they get it.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. We need to give ourselves permission to be imperfect, to just start and figure things out as we go along.
Right, because progress comes from doing, not from planning. And remember, progress beats perfection every single time. Just start, even if it's messy.
Start messy, learn as you go. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Now, the last thing the video talks about, and this is something I think we all understand, is rewards.
Ah, yes, rewards. A good reward system can be super powerful. It takes advantage of your brain's natural reward system, that dopamine we were talking about earlier. When you do something and then you get a reward, it strengthens that connection in your brain between the action and the positive feeling.
So you're basically training your brain to enjoy getting things done.
Exactly. The video suggests having different levels of rewards, too. So for a small task, maybe it's a little treat or a break. For a bigger accomplishment, maybe it's something you really enjoy, like watching a movie. And even just checking something off your to-do list can be its own little reward.
It's like giving your brain a little treat for being productive.
Yeah, exactly. And the important thing is the order. The action comes first, then the reward. Don't reward yourself before you've done the work. It needs to be that connection. The positive feeling comes after the accomplishment. That's what builds those good habits.
So instead that feeling of like, oh, I have to do this, it becomes like, okay, I'm going to get this done, and then I get to have this nice thing.
Exactly. And the video makes another good point. Think about how good you'll feel after you've accomplished the thing. That reward will be even sweeter because you know you earned it.
Okay, this has been a super interesting deep dive. So just to recap, we need to understand why our brains resist big goals. And then we can use these tools to get over that resistance. Tiny steps, just do it. The 2-minute rule, surrounding yourself with the right people and the right content, letting go of perfectionism, and rewarding yourself for your progress.
Yeah, and all of these strategies are practical and based on real science. They work with your brain, not against it.
Exactly. So, to everyone listening, it's time to stop thinking and start doing. I'm going to challenge you right now. Think of one task that you've been putting off, something you've been overthinking or avoiding. Got it. Okay, now I want you to take some kind of action on it in the next 60 seconds. It doesn't matter how small, just do something. Send an email, open a document, do one repetition of that exercise you've been meaning to start.
That's it. Just break that inertia. That tiny action is the first step to building momentum.
Remember, those small, consistent steps lead to big results. So keep going, and don't forget to celebrate your wins along the way.
And here's one last thought to leave you with. What is the smallest possible step you can take today towards your biggest ambition? And what is one tiny habit that you can build consistently that will have the biggest impact on your ability to bridge that gap between what you want to achieve and what you actually do?
Think about that, everybody, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.
Until then.